Hello everyone, we're taking a look at the newest design out called Split. So I just wanted to do a brief walkthrough just to take a look at some of the layers and a couple potential gotchas that might just help speed things up as you're working with this design. Alright, so very similar approach to Mini. We start out with some color grading layers here. Again, we can expand this group. There's multiple different color grade application layers here, and they all do something just a little bit to create an overall effect. So if you find that the effect's too strong or you'd like to tweak it, you could change the individual opacities of these layers, turn them off and on, or just change the overall opacity of the group, and you can tweak that color grade just a little bit. Below that we have our facial highlight boost. So we have one for lighter skin, one for darker skin. Again, if we expand this out, we can read our layer names for some descriptions and things of what these layers are for. And again, I use that if you just want to brighten the facial highlights a little bit, just to bring that attention onto the subject. That's what I use. I would just pick the mask, come over, grab a white brush, and paint that in on the face, and then adjust the opacity to taste. We have some normal text here at the bottom. There is a link on the product page to where I obtained these fonts from if you would like to use the similar. Once we get below that, here are our foreground elements. So these are the things that's going to be in front of our subject. So if we expand this group, we can see we have some foreground shadowing, and then we have some elements in here with some layers clipped to them. So we can see, like, this is the foreground left bar, so that's going to be this bar that runs diagonally here. Below that is our foreground right bar, and below that we have a foreground left triangle and right triangle. And you're going to see that these have layers clipped to them, which are denoted by these little arrows pointing down to that layer, which means they affect only that portion of that layer that they're clipped to. So to change colors and things on here, we've got a texture. So if you wanted to turn that texture off, you absolutely could. And if you wanted to turn that texture off and make this a solid color, we would just come up to this color up here and change this from color blend mode to normal. And you can see you can make that a solid color with no texture. But let's set that back. Set that back to color. And turn our texture back on. Now there's a brightness layer here, so depending how dark or bright you want that color to be, and depending on the color you're using, you could change the actual. Let's get over to our properties window. You could change the actual brightness value of that slider. You could turn this off and on, or you could change the opacity. Same as in Photoshop. There's always 10 ways to do the same thing. Now the triangle color you're going to see in the note in here in the layer name. It says use hard light or color blend mode. We'll take a look at why that is in just a minute, but you can see, like, right now this is set to color. If we change it to hard light, we get a different effect here. But sometimes that's needed depending on the color that you're trying to set to. But again, we'll take a look at that in just a minute. So all of these are set up the same way. We've got texture, we've got a brightness, and we've got a color. So if we wanted to set this color over here, we can turn that brightness on or off, change the blend mode, things like that. All right. So that's how those are working. Let's go on down here. We got our subject group, so this is where I'll stick our subject in just a minute. We'll take a look at a subject and some shadowing on the subject. We got some additional text here for the background. So depending on what background graphic element you're using or something, you know, we could change that text. We can rotate that text. So if we wanted to rotate counterclockwise and bring it down and find different places to put this, you know, you could absolutely move that around wherever that you like. Below that, we have a couple of spotlighting type effects. So the first is a shadow, which is basically creating this shadow vignette around everything. The second one is the bright spot in the middle. So again, could be turned on or off depending on the look you're going for. It's on by default just to create that spotlight effect. Then we're going to drop down again. So again, we see some layers clipped on down to this group, which this is our background shapes. So the shapes that are included by default in this design, we have a basketball graphic, which is turned on now. We can turn that off. Here we have a wrestling one. We have a bowling graphic, hockey, football, baseball. We have a target for archery or something like that. We have just a simple diamond, which just creates a cool like reverse split effect there. We have some diagonal lines, which are interesting. And I've also added in some diagonal text to match those lines, which I think creates a really cool graphic type of look. And we'll look at that text in just a second. And then I just have a simple sample logo in here. So if you're working with a school or somebody, a team that has like a very simple outline of a logo, you could absolutely drop that right in here. And this effect will automatically get applied for this split color effect. So just wanted to put that in there as a sample because that's a cool way to use it as well. Now let's look at our diagonal text again. We'll turn our lines on, and it could be used with or without the lines, but we'll open up this group for the text. You're going to see this text is set up as a smart object. And then there's 3 copies of it, which create all of the lines. Now to update this, you don't have to update every line. All we want to do, and you'll see in the note here, do not edit, so we don't need to touch these. Diagonal text, edit this smart object. So to edit it, what we're going to do is double click on the layer thumbnail. It's going to open a new document window, and then it's just normal text. So we could double click on here, and we could say, let's do Alvin's Dragons. And then I just want to make sure that shows how good I am. I can't talk and type at the same time. We want to make sure it extends corner to corner. And as long as we have that, if we close this window, it'll ask us to save. We'll say yes. And that should update all of our lines of text, all staggered to create that effect. Okay, so pretty simple to change that text. You just have to change it within that first smart object. All right, so let's go ahead and turn this off and turn this off. And let's turn a subject on here. So on our subject, we can see he's already dropped in here. There's already some masking applied, so it's going to go ahead and mask out around those legs down there, so we can position however we like. Let's maybe turn on our wrestling graphic option here. So that's on. And again, these can all be moved around and positioned as well based on what you're looking to do. It could be resized, anything. And so let's set these colors to match now. So let's start with our background shape here. So we'll leave the black side because he's got black and red. So let's go kind of black or gray and red basically. So we'll take our yellow and let's double click. This is just a solid color fill. I'm going to go ahead and sample a red here from his uniform. And now you see this red ends up a little bit bright and on the pinkish side for me. But all I'm going to do is change this from color to hard light. And that's going to fix that. That matches much better for me. So that's what I'm saying. Depending on which color you're using, some look better set to color, some look better set to hard light. So if you select that and you find that it's not giving you quite the effect that you want, just try hard light or color, vice versa, whichever it's set to. And there's also some brightness in there. So, you know, again, if we wanted to turn that brightness down or off, we could do that depending on the look that you want. All right, so now there's some layers we haven't looked at yet. But again, very the same. This is just the background group. And so the background's got a couple different textures going on back there. And then we got just a base backfill, which is allowing that texture to show through. And then we have our colors here, just like all of the other layers where we have the colors. So let's set this red here as well. And typically what I like to do if I'm just working with a single color like this is just, I'm going to open up, this is the red that we set previously. I'm just going to make sure that this hex code is selected and Command or Control C to copy it and click OK. Now I can come down to this yellow and just paste that value in. And so again, we see it set to color. I don't like that the color effect that's giving me, so I'm going to change it from color to hard light. And now I'm starting to like that much more. All right, so let's run on up our layer stack here. So now we want to match up our foreground elements. So same thing where this is yellow. I'm just going to double click on it. I'm going to paste in that same red. And again, for this red, I like it better set to hard light, so I'm going to make that switch. And we have, let's see, there's another yellow for the triangle. I'm going to paste that red in. Once again, I'm going to set it to hard light. And then you're going to see the only other things are the stroke lines on these other elements. So, for instance, on this triangle here, we can see we have a yellow stroke line. I'm just going to double click on the stroke here. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to paste that red in there. Click OK, click OK. And then on our bar, right here, our bar texture and our foreground right bar, same thing. Double click on the stroke line, select the color, paste in our red, OK, and OK. Now that just leaves us with our text. So we can close that group up, and I'm just going to pick, let's start with the last name, we'll grab the text, we'll come up here to our properties, we can paste in that red, click OK, and maybe on the stroke line on this one we want to make it a little brighter so it kind of pops out a little bit more. We'll just set that color, click OK. And then as far as the first name, let's go back into the stroke line. Let's make that same red. And maybe let's change the text from gray to black. So again, you can play around with it, set it what you like. But that's how we would come through here and quickly set up those colors to match our subject or our school colors, team colors, things like that. Again, here's the facial highlight boost. I'll just grab a white brush and just paint right over his face. And you'll see that just pops those highlights out just a little bit. If it's too much, all I need to do is bring the opacity down a little bit. And I get that attention right back up on the subject face. And so there we have it. Everything should be set up, ready to go. And I hope you get a ton of use out of this. And good luck. See you on the next one.